appears to show confusion among officers, contradictory statements in real time, and the rapid deployment of chemical agents against people who were protesting peacefully and attempting to de-escalate the situation. Even as organizers and safety marshals worked to move people into the park and reduce tension, force was still used. That matters. For weeks, community members have said the response at No Kings was disproportionate, unnecessary, and inconsistent with the city's own stated de-escalation policies. The footage released so far only reinforces those concerns. But let's be clear, this was an 8-minute edited clip, not the full picture. The released footage does not show officers assaulting a woman with a broken leg. It does not show the violent arrests of 2 other individuals witnesses say were detained without justification. It does not include dash cam footage from officers who detained protesters, drove them around the city, and later returned them. And it does not include key moments before escalation that could help establish who made the decision to violate established policy and protocol in the first place. Yet even with selective footage, the video still appears to show that MPD's own policies surrounding escalation and use of force were not followed. This should alarm every person in this city. Media outlets and the public should be demanding answers from Mayor Paul Young, Chief C.J. Davis, and members of City Council. Why did this escalation happen? Who gave the order? Why were de-escalation protocols apparently ignored? Why are critical portions of footage still missing? And after repeated controversies, including officer conduct, why does city leadership continue defending a pattern of failures instead of demanding accountability? This cannot be viewed in isolation. Memphis is still living with the trauma of repeated incidents involving excessive force, aggressive policing, and a failure of accountability. Families in this city have buried loved ones after encounters with law enforcement. Communities have spent years demanding reforms, transparency, and a policing culture that values preservation of life over escalation. Yet time and time again, we see situations intensify instead of calm. The murder of Mr. Darren Pegram is another devastating reminder that unchecked violence and failures in policing do not make our communities safer. They deepen fear, erode trust, and reinforce the belief that some lives are treated as disposable when authority is challenged. Memphis cannot continue responding to public concern with carefully managed optics while communities continue experiencing harm. Peaceful protest is not a threat to democracy, but violent overreaction to dissent is. We are calling for the immediate release of all available footage related to No Kings incident, a full independent review of officer conduct and use of force, transparency regarding whether MPD policies were violated, accountability for any officers found to have acted outside of that policy, real answers from city leadership, and protection of the constitutional right to protest without intimidation, retaliation, or violence. Memphians deserve truth, accountability, and leadership willing to confront these failures honestly instead of minimizing them.
I was just waiting on or questions if y'all had them. I don't.
So my first thing is, one thing we do see from the perspective of the one officer is it appears that he's one of the people that began pepper spraying protesters from the beginning. Just walk me through that and what you did see from this 8-minute video that was released today.
I think that we saw exactly what we described in the beginning when this initially happened, was that we were backing up. We had made it back to the end of the park, the end of the protest, and they just ran in and instantly started, being aggressive with protesters,
Unprovoked.
Yeah, unprovoked. And it just goes to show that, Memphis or MPD is violent. They have been violent. They've been violent since Tyree. There's been no restraints put on them since then. And it seems like it just only escalates with each year that passes with no accountability measures put in place.
In the video, it also shows that officer mentions something about pushing up against cars, but there's multiple angles from multiple different sources that show that there was never any contact made with the MPD vehicles.
Yeah.
Do you anticipate them releasing the rest of the footage, like after they do you think that this is going to have to go to court again with Tyler Foster battling it in court?
We believe that, we hope that they do the right thing. We hope for the best and expect the worst. We would hope that in the spirit of transparency to the city and its citizens and help rebuilding any kind of trust that they hope to build with citizens on policing, that they will release all the footage. But at this time, the DA's office has said that they will not release any more footage, which, as we said in our statement, it did not include many key points that I think that we still have questions about.
Now, we saw there were dozens of officers out there and a handful were placed on administrative leave. What further action would you like us to take?
All of them that participated in that day should have been put on leave. There were only 4 from what we've heard, and we don't know who those 4 were, but if you watch the video even that they themselves put out, you would see that there were more than 4 officers who were violent during that exchange. So I hope that all of them would be accountable, but also I think it is a good time for Paul Young to revisit the employment of CJ Davis, because all of these things have happened under her leadership, and it's become a pattern at this point. So accountability for all of them that were involved that day would be something that we would absolutely like to see.
Kind of talk a little bit about from the very, I know this was a short clip, it was only 8 minutes, but at the very beginning we saw where I heard an officer say, oh, they're just going to the park, they're good, and then it quickly turned. Kind of talk about watching that and hearing how it started where, oh, they're good, they're just going to the park, and then it turned into immediate pepper spray.
We don't know exactly, and that's part of the questions that we have, is who gave the order to move in violently against us. We saw in the videos that had been released before now from bystanders that there were multiple elected leaders. Justin Pearson, J.B. Smiley, Keyshawn Pearson had made multiple communication points with the officers along the route, and they had all given us the okay to go back to the park. And that's exactly what the video shows that we were doing. And it does show in the video that the other officer told him they're good, let them go back to the park. And at some point, there was, because of the noise assault that was used against protesters, you're unable to hear officers right before they moved in, other than the false accusation that they were pushing against the car.
You all have been at city council for the past, since this happened. I've seen you in the comments this time. Have any council members reached out to you to talk to you all, or have you met with any city leaders since this?
No, aside from JB being present, and then I think there was a comment made by Jerry Green when we were at City Council that they would also be willing to look out for us. But everybody else has pretty much remained quiet about the whole thing in its entirety. Aside from what they give y'all as a statement, we hear the same things, and we don't even hear it directly. We get those comments back from what we see on the news broadcast.
And as another point, I'm sure, as y'all have all reported too, we were assured that within the next week that City Council would have CJ Davis present to answer questions, and that was added to the agenda, and it was taken off mysteriously and moved to a closed door meeting with CJ Davis. And so that just goes to the point that everything that's done in Memphis is done in the dark. It's not done in the light to make anybody accountable for the policies that are obviously not being followed.
Yeah.
What's the next step for you all?
The next step, we have, we stand in solidarity against MPD violence on any occasion. Right now, we're planning to support the vigil for Mr. Pegram on Wednesday, and stand with his family in solidarity, because until everybody's free from police violence, nobody's free.
And I just think it's important to note that, in this instance, they moved on a whole bunch of white people, like without any fear of retaliation, without any fear of consequences. But this is something that happens to black people every day. Like, black people are confronted with police violence every day in this city, and something has to be done about it, because if they're willing to do it so openly and so plainly in plain sight in front of, all the news cameras and everybody else, what do you think they're doing when nobody else is around to watch them? So I think just the accountability factor. I've been being harassed by one of the police officers that, was involved in the violence against us on No King's Day, as well as another police officer that was involved in an incident that is separate from this. It just doesn't seem like there's any oversight right now. It doesn't seem like they have any direction. It doesn't seem like there's any control. It doesn't feel like their policies are being enforced. And I think that's something that people need to start digging into a little bit further.
But I do want to make it clear that the acts from MPD, from No Kings, does not deter our fight for justice and accountability and our right to protest dissent. And especially with everything that's going on in Tennessee, with the redistricting, we will not stay quiet and we will not stop fighting for our communities.
One's involved, we have permanent injuries.
Does anybody involved have permanent injuries?
No, they don't have permanent injuries. They have been having to deal with a lot of processing due to the conditions that they were exposed to at 201 Poplar, which are still deplorable and still inhumane to people that are being held there.
Absolutely. Thank y'all.